Welcome to Spiritual and Sassy, the podcast where we bleed deep soul wisdom with authentic confidence.
We're your host,
Tressa
and Myra, and together we'll explore the mystical side of life, challenge societal norms and programming, and embrace our inner power.
Whether you're on a spiritual journey or just love a little sass, this space is for you.
Let's dive in and light up the world with a little more love.
Oh. Well, here we are.
It was going.
Yeah, the countdown was over.
The mouse will never be removed. It will stay there forever.
I was like, let me get my mouse out of the way.
Oh my gosh.
That countdown went fast.
I didn't even see it. So there's that, and oh my gosh. The countdown made me think about this. So those in listener land, if you watch our videos, you'll see sometimes like balloons pop up and bubbles and thumbs up. Okay. I've had these beautiful positive signs. I got on a session on a call with another healer. I got a thumbs down. And she said, I have never seen that. I was like, oh my God. And it was the craziest shit. I was like, oh God, oh man, maybe I'm not. Like, it was like, oh, sorry. But she liked me enough to continue. Nah, I was actually speaking negatively about myself, and I referred to it as an addiction. And as soon as I said the word, it was a thumbs down. And so it was like, no. So I was like, okay, I didn't like that. Nobody liked that. So yeah, it was really crazy.
Crazy because I went to a spirit expo this weekend in Rock Springs, and I had a reading by a psychic medium, and for some reason she talked about addiction with me and said the same. Well, she was telling me about a woman she'd worked with, and her son had an addiction to a substance, maybe drugs, I didn't ask. Supposedly had gotten some help, was doing good, and then ultimately OD'd. And her client was just like, well, it's an addiction, it's an illness. The medium that was working with me was like, I didn't tell her because she was just in such a state of pain from losing her child that I don't believe in addiction. And so I said to her, it's interesting that you bring that up because I also don't believe in addiction. Like, I don't believe in the word addiction. And when we put that word to us, we are labeling ourselves at a very low vibration, or I hate negative and positive, but we use the terms that way. So or a negative energy, right? And so that's why I don't believe in addiction. There are many things that people do to suppress things. That's still a choice they're making, right? You're choosing to do whatever the activity is, whether that be drugs, alcohol, food. I just talked in our last episode about my recognition of my own ego with shopping and things, so I agreed with her wholeheartedly. I think it was maybe a little confirmation for you to think about that word and how powerful it is.
Well, exactly. It was so crazy because I do not use that word. And I don't even like the word. And as soon as I said it, I could feel it just felt icky. Like, I don't know another way to describe that. And I've actually never even described myself like that. And when I was in the session, I was in a very low vibration. I was in a super low vibration, especially the day leading up to it, during the session, on the call. And it was like, oh wow, I knew as soon as I said it and how icky it felt that the thumbs down was straight up a confirmation to me that is not real. Like, that is no no label there. That's not cool. Like, it was like, oh no. And it was really crazy. And she told me, she's like, yeah, I've never seen a thumbs down. I'm like, okay, well, I'm the queen of the random fucking bubbles and shit that comes on the videos. Like, only my side will have like shit pop up. And I was on Zoom. I wasn't even in Riverside. Okay. So a whole different platform. And a fucking thumbs down showed up. So I was like, oh wow. Okay. That is like, all right. That's not good. So that happened. And I will it made me think about it. I was like, yeah, that was ugly. That was not good. That was, or I could feel the energy around it already. It was just, it was awful. It made me even think, like, what did I even just say about myself? Like, where am I even at to even say or use the type of language that I was using to describe myself that I don't even use and I don't typically use.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And I think it's a good time to talk a little bit about everything has vibrational energy to it, right? Everything's energy.
Yep.
And then you associate a vibration to it. So words are the same way, right? You're speaking them, and how are you feeling about what you're saying? Because you can use, the same word and interchange it with a different intention, and the vibration of the word is different, right?
Exactly.
Like, I personally I hate that people say, well, these are cuss words. Who defined that they were fucking cuss words?
Cuss words.
Who made that up? Like, what is that? They're words that you use. And sometimes the only expression that works for my vibration is fuck.
Yeah.
And sometimes it makes me giggle more than any other word. I don't know why. I find it funny, but could I also use that same word in an aggressive, if I'm feeling aggressive and my intention is to hurt somebody with the word? Heck yeah, I can. Of course I can, right? It's about the vibration of how your intention behind what you're doing. So paying attention to that, right? But like when we think about these, the collective consciousness plays in too, right? Because then that's where like people have decided these words are cuss words or bad, right? It comes from that collective energy. And I'm breaking that cycle. Now let's say fuck, shit, damn, whatever you want. If you need it, you say it. It's available.
I'm gonna go ahead and document that for me. It's available. No, it makes me think about, like words like kids will use too. And Nola, so I cuss, woohoo, I cuss a lot. And she doesn't. And I don't know if I'm ready for my 6-year-old to cuss. But the word that she uses instead of shit is fries. Okay. And I know what it means because she'll say, fries, and she'll make that face like fries. And it just goes back to exactly what you're saying. She is giving she's changing the meaning to the word fries. There's two different intentions here. And how is she using the word fries? Fries could be a food, but for her, she's using it when she wants to express herself if something's shitty. She's like, it's fries, Mom. Like, fries, You're
like, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
you're right.
Total fries, girl.
Total fries.
Fries, yeah. So that made me think about that, and like this little show she watches called Bluey. For those out there that have seen Bluey, this dog, there's always a dog in a generation of kids shows that changes the world. Currently, it's this one called Bluey, and they say biscuits. Look, my thumbs up came.
Hey, look, you got thumbs up.
I'm back on good graces.
You're on good graces. Your guides are like, you're on the right track.
Thank you, internet digital guides with your signs. Thank you. But yeah, so same thing, like biscuits, Anyways, it made me think of how cute, like you can change the meaning of a word and your intention with the word. And is the word meant to be funny, to hurt? How are you using the word? What meaning are we using the word? And it goes back to exactly what you're saying. Who labeled cuss words as bad in quotation, or who put that energy around them, who called them cuss words, who said they were not okay to use, or acceptable to use. So again, different timeline, biscuit and fries could be the same as shit and fuck. You know what I mean? So
it could be.
Yes. It's totally what meaning you give it.
You're right. Could be biscuits and fries. If you're not going to say fucking shit.
Biscuits and fries. Yeah.
Start a new trend.
I like it. I'll go with it. I'll go down with that.
So,
well,
you were talking to me earlier about, you wanted to talk a little bit about ego death. You've been studying a little bit about it?
Yeah. So last week in the episode, we talked about, honestly, and Tressa and Eve and I, we talked about it before we started this episode. I've been in a place energetically when I throw water on my stuff and when I just fry my shit like on my computer. But anyways, energetically, I was really low vibrational last week. And so when I was doing the episode, I even told Tressa, I don't even remember what we talked about until she just said it. Like it was, and I have a very good memory and I remember a lot of things and completely, I felt like it was a whole blackout of an episode. And I actually feel like the last week has been a complete blackout, if we need to use a word to describe kind of how I've been feeling. And we talked so much about ego, and we talked about some of the shadows and some of the labels and the authenticity around who we are, and recognizing what is ego, what's authentic for us, what's meant for us, what's flowing with our lives. And so we've been we I don't know who's we, me and my personalities, me and my guides have really been cool. I've really been working through my own personal ego, my own personal authenticity, and a reflection and self-awareness of who I am and what I'm putting out and the intention that I'm putting out with everything that I'm doing. And, I feel like, honestly, maybe I'm having a public ego death through every episode.
Yeah, I think I have to some degree.
Yeah, there's Easter eggs, folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like Taylor Swift with my Easter eggs and all my stuff. And, one day I'll go into more detail about everything. But right now, like one of the things that I've been exploring, because I am going through an ego death at this time, what even is that? Look, another thumbs up. They're coming for me.
Yeah, they're telling you on the right track, Myra.
They like it. Yeah, they love it. Woohoo, here we go. But an ego death can be transformational. Some people can go through an ego death in many different ways, come out of it with a greater sense of compassion or connection to others, a new perspective of what matters in life. You can go through an ego death from a trauma. You can go through an ego death through a psychedelic experience. So if you are experimenting with psychedelics, that I don't know if I'm legally allowed to list on. List online.
Like
I don't know.
Ceremony or something like that.
Ceremony, or if you just even went with LSD, you could also have that experience. DMT, also referred to as the God drug. But anyways, those psychedelic and the experiences that the people go through allow a layer of their consciousness to be heightened and enlightened, and you're going through an experience where you have the boundary between yourself and the universe is released. It's blurred. Tressa probably has a more poetic way of saying that, but it's a release between the current state, the monkey mind. I love the term Tressa uses a lot around that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your subconscious. Again, like I said, you can go through it through the psychedelics, through a trauma. You can come out of it from a meditation or a prayer or something, or a reflection. It just really depends, or an experience, or an emotional experience, or an emotional awakening. And, when you're going through an ego death, it can feel chaotic. You can feel like you're having a loss of identity, self-concept. It also can be a detachment from your thoughts, emotions. You can feel detached from your body, like an outer body experience. Could be part of an ego death. There also, and this is something that I actually wrote down when I was exploring ego death too, and I relate to, is the emotions of an intense fear or liberation. And I'll get into that in a minute. And it can sometimes be both, because when you're doing things that are scary or hard or traumatic, or you're going through these emotional releases, like there's an immense amount of fear that you can feel, but at the same time you can come out of it and feel very liberated, and or you might not, or you might feel one or the other. But I've actually felt both, so I wrote that down to bring that up too. But yeah, so I think that's what I've got. So you can go through it that way and then emerge with a new identity. You're basically, in layman's terms, the simplest metaphor I have for this is a snake shedding skin, and you come out a completely different creature. It's a full-on public scene feeling of an emerging of a new person, a new label, or not a new label, excuse me, a new identity. And it's the death of that ego.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote down a few things as you were kind of talking about the ego death. And I think it's interesting. Everyone has their own journey on what that looks like, right? Like, I know in last week's episode, I had an epiphany that I talked about where, I recognized I was associating things, clothing specifically, and shoes to my ego. And then after that episode, during some meditation, I came to the understanding, and I was talking to you about this earlier, that's not necessarily authentic to me, but I was mimicking behaviors of females who influenced me in my younger years. That was what they enjoyed. That's what they did. So I assumed that's what I should do also.
Yeah.
So I kind of took on an identity that maybe wasn't Tressa, right? And I never took the time to think about it. And so the acknowledgement of that is key for me to change that, right? That's now a layer of my ego I can potentially release because I now have an awareness around it, right? But what you were talking about that I want to get back to also about, you were talking about like if you choose to use, a psychedelic, or you go on that journey, or you can even do this in a meditation sometimes. However, and the lines are blurred, right? You're out of your monkey mind. What it is it takes you into a different layer of consciousness. And it's a consciousness that I call it's called the law of one, because we're all a connected consciousness, right? We're all interconnected. And so, we talked about this in our Easter episode where I had said, we talk about this God or Jesus or whatever that means to whoever you are. And if you would how would you expect them to act? And how are you acting? Are you doing those same things? Because what you do to one, you're doing to yourself. What you do to yourself, you're doing to others. We're all interconnected. So those things help blur that line, as you said, and it helps you to identify what you're doing is impacting not only you, but everyone around you. It's that ripple effect, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, you can get there a lot faster if you're using potentially, an ayahuasca ceremony or something like that. That's what you're just getting that deeper connection into the truth, right? Because I believe when we take human form, that's why religions talk about the veil. That's what they refer to it as, right? We forget how powerful our spirit is. We are of one consciousness. We are of God's energy, which I believe is pure love. I don't identify God as a man or a woman. It's just an omnious, full expression of connection and unconditional love is the way that I view it.
Yeah.
And then, it's interesting. You talked about losing your identity. And when I work with clients, and I've worked with clients, coaching clients for sometimes up years, they'll come in and out. I always know when we're getting to the point of a breakthrough because it is where they'll pull back, because it is where they're about ready to go into a new identity. And the fear of going into that new identity is so strong. Even though they want to make the changes, they'll pull back because it could potentially mean leaving a spouse, having different friends, having a different socioeconomic situation happen. Right? Because when you find that true identity and you move into it, some of those things around you are they will shift. Right? Because certain things won't align with you anymore. And that's where the fear comes in. And sometimes they'll just pull back to stay in that state of comfortability and not rock the boat, if you will, instead of moving into that true self.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I, to be honest, I have been going through a situation for a really long time. And, I don't know, I say everything's funny. That's just my deflection, I guess. It's funny. Yeah. It's not that funny. But you know what I mean? Yeah.
It funny. Can be.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, I felt like one of the emotional responses that I've really worked through is running, not physically running away from things. So this situation gets uncomfortable, then I just go and do this, but all I'm really doing is avoiding it. I'm not addressing it head on. I'm just running from it. I'm really freaking great at that. And I've done a lot of running, in quotations, in my life. How can I just keep running from it instead of just facing it head on and addressing the situation at hand? And running can mean many things. We're leaving a relationship, departing with an item, selling a home, it's what you're also talking about too, where you get in that fear part, like what are you getting rid of here? Or do you just keep taking it all with you and just putting it in a different situation? Also, running to me resembles just keeping going through those same energetic cycles instead of actually addressing them. You're just going to keep going through the cycles. If I didn't address anything in my marital situation now and I were to just separate and then marry someone again, or or not even get married or get into another relationship again, if I haven't addressed those cycles and things just keep following until they're actually addressed head on. And so one, that's been something that I've reflected upon, especially this last week. And I know this, I'm aware of it. So the awareness has happened before many times. It's something that I've worked through, and I've really talked about that and tried to identify that and then correct, really address it. What's the root of it? And then work through those things in different areas of my life. And then the current situation that I'm going through is another area of it that I hadn't actually addressed. And have made a lot of choices strategically. And this is where the monkey mind, my logical side, comes into play. We talked about it in last week's episode. Like, this is me literally in negotiation 24/7 with the universe. I'm going to do this because this is going to happen. And then this can happen, and this can happen, and this can happen. And it wasn't true flow of my next steps and my actions and what I was trying to do. So there's that side of it. And then the other side of it has been like grappling with the feeling of worthiness of the situation that I'm in. I felt that when it's, as Tress and I talked before the episode, there's two sides of the worthiness. It's, am I worthy to receive? Am I worthy to have? So am I worthy to even receive what I'm getting? And then my worthiness the other way, where it's inauthentic, like, oh yeah, well, I deserve that because of this, or I need this because I did this, or because of this or that. And I had both of those things going on at the same time. And I've addressed things, and things have abruptly changed, like Tressa was saying too, the fear part of it, something big happens, or a loss of something, or a change of something, or a relationship change, or a job change, or things. But because I don't address things, the universe likes to do it for me. So I don't know if it's a good thing or the universe is like, all right. And it's so crazy because it's not even crazy, but it's interesting because I have been manifesting everything that the universe has presented to me in the last several years. Everything. I've manifested all of it, but I wasn't doing the actual work. I was just trying to manifest it. So the universe did it to me. Or did it with me? I don't know. To me, I'm not in victim energy, so I don't want to use to me, because that's not true. I'm not over here like, oh, why is this happening to me? Because I'm not in that space. So I don't know. That's the wrong verbiage. It's with me, I guess, I'm doing it. It's going on. I don't know.
I think I would say it like this. It's manifested for you. For you.
There we go.
Right? For you. It's for you.
Yeah.
For your...
It is for me.
Growth. For your...
For my highest good.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And it's when I am manifesting A, B, C, D, and when I pray and when I meditate, that's the part of the surrender for my highest good. And it's part of the lesson that, I'm still needing to work on, is true surrender, for one, and to trust. Like, what is trust? Am I truly trusting the universe? Am I truly trusting my intuition, my guides, my gut, my brain? Like, we are so powerful. Am I trusting myself? Am I doing things in an authentic way and not because of what I believe other people are doing? Or, I loved what you said, Tressa. I'm reflecting on last week's episode. You were exhibiting habits that were a reflection of people in your life that they had similar style. They wanted to buy clothes or things, and you were mimicking those habits in a way,
and that's not their responsibility in any way, shape, or form. I want to clear that. That's on me.
Absolutely
right?
not. Yep.
Because at the time I had no idea who I was, no idea to understand any of that. So I just mimicked something that
Yeah.
somebody that I loved, people I loved, right?
Yeah. And I love that because what I've been going through is exactly that too. You know, growing up, I saw people that were in similar situations. They were doing things that I thought I needed to do. And I used verbiage earlier, and, you know, I'm not ashamed to use it here publicly too. I said I deserved it. And, you know, Tressa called that out, like, hey, that's a red flag. I mean, and as soon as she said it, and as soon as it left my mouth, like, you're right. Like, that is what the fuck? Like, what the fuck, you know? And so this week I have, and it's not even been this whole week, it's been months of going through a shedding of an identity. And it started with the ending of a job that presumed status, with the job that exuberated a status, with a title, with an income, with a feeling, a participation, with, and I was, months before that ended, I've shared before on the episode, I was in fear. Like, I don't know, just, I like to be descriptive, you know, so sometimes my descriptiveness isn't always the greatest, but being descriptive about it, like, you know, when you're shaky, when you're just so uncontrollably shaky, and like, you're like, what am I afraid of? You know, that was my intuition. That was my gut. Like, and I should have listened to that. And I knew something was going to end, and the fear of it ending, instead of allowing it to truly flow and know what was happening, I was fighting against it too hard. I was pretending it wasn't happening. And in result, you know, I did X, Y, and Z into some of the situations that I'm in. And then same with the journey between then and now. You know, a lot of the actions I took between then, again, I went back into fear. And that was the first time that I probably should have took the steps that I'm taking right now. And I chose not to. I chose to solve my issues with another issue, you know, or mask it, or run, you know, or just continue a cycle again. Like, okay, well, this is happening, so if I just hurry up and band-aid it really quick, that death of my ego, or the loss of identity, or the change can be avoided. Like, oh, holy shit, I gotta figure this out. And it's so funny, you know, I'm gonna use that word again, because the thing that I have literally tried to avoid being is happening right now. And it's because I wasn't ever actually addressing it. I was inauthentically pursuing things that were not true to me, and were true to an identity that was impressed upon me, or like a vision or that wasn't real, you know, and it was heavily an influenced persona. And I honestly, day one of that was always truly inauthentic, like day one, you know?
Yeah.
And this whole fucking last almost 8 fucking years of my life have been way too hard than they needed to be, because I truly was not in the flow of my life. And I was truly not in the flow of the energy that I was so desperately, which again, red flag, trying to fucking achieve, hold, or maintain. And like, honestly, I am no shaman. Like, honestly, and I go through that too. Like, it's been worthiness. Am I even worthy to be on this podcast? Am I even worthy to fucking talk to you guys on this episode? You know, like, it's been one of those whirlwind of emotion, and the value, identity, worthy, self-love, authenticity, things that I've talked about each and every week. But I am definitely a step ahead of, or I'm taking the steps happening. And I feel so free for the first time in my life. I feel so free from an identity that I have fucking tried so hard to uphold for no reason. Like, that was truly so not authentic to me. And like, it genuinely started like before I fucking graduated high school. Like, I tried so hard to not be these people or these things or this shit or whatever the fuck was happening. And all I did was run from it instead of actually working through those generational cycles and through those things that I personally needed to heal from. I never healed from them. And so I just kept running with them, and they just kept cycling through. And then I acted in a way that was not true to me, not true to my energy, was super low vibrational, and a lot of masking. I think masking is a great word to use there. And I have wanted nothing but to be free. And I feel more free now than I've felt in many, many, many years.
Yeah. It's interesting. You talked about the running, and the metaphor I use is like a hamster wheel. You're running, but you're
Yeah.
not getting anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And I love the saying of like, you're always taking you wherever you go. You're the
Yeah.
common denominator. So until
Oh,
you
yeah.
dig into that, which most people don't want to face, right? They don't want to do the work, then the hamster wheel just continues, right?
Yeah.
And I love that you were talking about flow, right? Because you wanted this, you desired freedom, and you desired what freedom gives you is flow, being in flow, letting things flow as they need to. But yet you also finally have acknowledged, which is beautiful, that everything that you were working with, even in your prayer, with your guides, even in your spiritual practice, was a sense of negotiation. Right. And that's because we have the image. And think about, I know some of the stuff you're talking about is generational and things that a patterning of generational, but there's also a layer of societal pressures and societal
Yeah.
imaging that comes in of this is what a successful life looks like. This is
Yeah.
what happiness looks like.
Yeah.
And it's all fucking bullshit because most
Yeah.
people that have, the cars, the house, whatever it is, the job,
Whatever it is,
like
job, the
5 kids
title.
that
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
beautiful in their Easter
2.5.
dresses. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Are miserable. I mean,
Yeah.
this is why people are on antidepressants like crazy,
Presence.
right? And people are having I was thinking about this the other day, even when that lady was talking to you about addiction, and the client that she was working with said her son had a dis-ease. I was like, well, yeah, he did have a dis-ease. All dis-ease
Yeah.
is caused because of an emotional imbalance. He had a dis-ease.
Exactly.
He was suppressing whatever that was at an emotional and spiritual level.
Yeah.
That's true. The body is a reaction. The body remembers everything. The
Yep.
body is telling us stuff all day. You said something about that. Like, I could feel it. I could feel it in my gut. I could feel that this job wasn't going to be there, but I just ignored it, right? There was a feeling within your body, and the body is telling us something always.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I had a situation a few weeks ago where I had a man stalk me years ago, and he still worked at the same place that I work. And there was another situation that arose that was being addressed. And I was in a meeting and I got a message from our HR team that it was his last day. And I knew he was going to be leaving the company. And my body, like I sat there and I'm like, wow, I can feel I'm getting upset. I'm not sure why in my mind intellectually, but my body started to shake. I could feel the tears coming. I could feel myself start to breathe erratically. And I just got up, left all of my stuff, got up, took my body out of the room because I'm like, I'm not going to have this breakdown in front of all these people.
Yeah.
Instead, I just went into a safe space with a friend that was there and started sobbing. And my hands were shaking. My body was controlling everything. I had zero space to try to go in there with intellect and change something. And thank God my body did it, because it was just the suppression of all of these years of this situation that I've dealt with. And fear energy overtook me, right? And it was my body's way of going, you've got to let some of this out. It's okay,
Yeah.
right? So after that, then I went into a little bit of panic mode, going into my monkey mind, like, oh my God, I called it an anxiety attack. It was just a release of the pressure that had built up for years. And I was like, am I going to start having these again? Oh my God, I've done all this work. I was in this fear space. And over the weekend, it was a Friday, thank goodness. Over the weekend, it was just like, I did some meditation. I did some breath work. I just sat with myself and I was like, no, this was just a blip on the radar of things that have built up for 20 plus years. Of course, your body reacted. Your mind didn't need to do anything. Your body expressed it, and that's okay, right? It is okay. It doesn't mean that your anxiety attacks are coming. It doesn't mean any of those things. It doesn't mean that the work you've done is null and void, right? Doesn't mean any of those things. And it really gave me a sense of empowerment. It's like, I'm not going to let this situation take away my joy, my happiness. I'm not going back into that space. But it was just such a really, actually, once I got out of the experience, it wasn't cool when I was experiencing it.
Yeah.
But once I got out of the experience, I had such gratitude for my body because it took care of me. It didn't,
Yeah.
it took care of me, right? It helped me release what I needed to release in that moment. And that's a beautiful thing. So I think the more you pay attention to what your body's telling you, the better off you are.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that 100%. And I mean, yeah, like I totally have obsessive compulsive disorder about well, let me rephrase that. I am not obsessive. I am working on releasing and being in the flow of life. But I have had to work through my monkey mind of obsessiveness. And even as I'm going through this journey and through the situation that I'm going through, like even when I got a sense of peace and I felt like everything was great, and it's like I sit back down and then all of a sudden I'm fucking researching again. And I'm going through 1,400 fucking scenarios that haven't even happened yet. And, and like Blake was, with me, and he said, and he was there too. He's like, I am at peace. I am calm. Like, you just took something completely, totally different from this meeting than I did from that. Or like, hey, like, we've been presented this situation and a path forward. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, why are you still doing this? Like, what are you doing? And it's like self-sabotage. Like, I couldn't allow myself to feel fucking peace. Like, I couldn't. And I mean, honestly, this is part of emotion. This is part of the release. Like, I'm not going to magically be in constant flow in 5 seconds here. Like, this is a journey and things that I have to continue to work on and address it and be aware of it and to let it go and to really work through things. And I literally couldn't even enjoy peace when peace was presented to me. And it's like, I think sometimes too, with the body and the way the body reacts, like, it's like my mind wanted my body to go back and feel the way it felt. Like, what the fuck is that? And I think that that's part of like going into the mind and not knowing. It's me not being able to separate the monkey mind from being in true flow and to really let it to be in the authenticity of the flow of life with what's about to be presented to me. It's not for me to know everything right this second and to know everything right now. The obsessiveness is a form of control. And when something feels out of control, moving into the obsessive energy and the attachment and the figuring it out and the logical side is a way for my mind to think that I'm in control when I'm really not. And it's a protective layer too. Like, I do believe knowledge is power, but I'm using knowledge in a way to protect myself. If I think I can answer everything before it happens, then I already know what's going to happen, which is not how that works. And then again, I'm just back in negotiation with the universe too. Like, that's a form of control.
Cycle over. Yeah.
Over. Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's interesting you talked about that, like you wanted to go right back into kind of that cycle. And I don't know how this plays in, but I wanted to talk about this today, and I feel like there's a place for this with what you just talked about. Because I have realized, thinking of our nervous system, right? We have the parasympathetic and we have the sympathetic. The parasympathetic is where we're in a calm, peaceful state. Like, our heart rate's low, we're in a calm energy. The sympathetic is our fight or flight. Okay. So that's where our nervous system is heightened. But what I believe and what I've really been digging into for myself is, I talked about that anxiety episode I had. Now, that was specific to releasing energy around a situation that had built up over time. But I do tend to find myself still anxious, but it's almost like, I believe, depending on your childhood, right? And I had a childhood that for me had trauma. So what I've researched is that my nervous system developed with panic and insecurity. That's how it developed. It's like my only thing my nervous system really knows is the sympathetic nervous system. Like, that's my normal sometimes. And I become accustomed to it. And I've really tried to become aware, right? So, like, I'm wondering if you're in your sympathetic nervous system more than you actually notice, is what I'm trying to
I'm
get
sure.
to.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I have realized that even when I believe I'm in a calm state, am I truly ever going into my parasympathetic? And I'm not comfortable there, right? My body
Mm-hmm.
is not comfortable there. So, I've really taken a step back and I've always trying to be aware of my body, but I'm trying to be aware of it even more to try to make sure that I can train my body that this panic or insecurity isn't where we have to stay, right? Because as a
Mm-hmm.
child, I did it. I was calm on the outside. The inside was a fucking train wreck. Right?
Yeah.
So I've really been working with my body more and trying to get myself in alignment with that and becoming aware of like the simplest of things. Like if I feel like I need to take a drink, is my body really telling me I'm thirsty, or is this just a reaction because my nervous system is feeling off, right? This is where people use food a lot, right? Am I
Mm-hmm.
hungry? Am I truly hungry? Is there a physical need for the food? Or is it serving something different? And that
Oh, yeah.
sounds really elementary, but really starting to try and develop like my nervous system in a different space, right? I've really been working on body movement. Do I need to move my body today, or do I need to rest my body today? And
Mm-hmm.
really honoring what my body needs in the moment. Because so
Mm-hmm.
often we feel like we have to have these disciplines. Well, I didn't exercise today. I'm lazy. Well, maybe
Mm-hmm.
my body really did need the rest. I've been doing really slow, deep breathing. Chanting can help. Asking my body, how is it feeling, and
Mm-hmm.
listening to it. So often we're just like doing what we think we should do and bouncing from one thing to another, that we have no awareness around what our true needs are. And the body is the one giving us that need. Because everything's stored in our body, right? Our
Mm-hmm.
energetic body, you think of the chakra system,
Yep.
that's part of our spiritual body. That's all stored within this case that we're carrying around. I call it our meat suit,
Yeah.
but we have to pay attention to that at our own level, and it's different for
Yeah.
everybody. So just reminded me of that, and I just wanted to talk about that a little bit today.
Oh, I agree 100% with that. It's very interesting because I had a really loving, joyful childhood, I guess. It really was
Mm-hmm.
great. Like I can't complain. And near the end of it though was during the economic recession, and that impact like really hit my family personally. And I am a big age difference between my brothers. My oldest brother's 11 years older than me, and my middle brother is 8 years older than me. So we lived in two different worlds, like I was pretty much an only child and my parents were older. And so I know a lot of what they were going through was shared with me, probably too much, and I do believe in being aware, and like I believe in, again, knowledge is power, and I do really believe in that. But what's the intent with the knowledge? Like, is it what are we doing with that knowledge, and how are we sharing that with our children or our friends and our family? And it was also an energetic exchange. I was involved in a lot of conversations that I probably shouldn't have been involved in. And I do believe, like being just aware, like, hey, we're not buying a boat tomorrow, like that's doable, but it was too much, too much. I knew way, way, way too much. And I think that as parents, and I have seen this in myself too, sometimes we want to share selfishly to lighten a burden. And, your children are with you and they're around you, and you feel like they're your little confidants, and you want them to know everything. But it's really, because of that experience, I've been very aware of what I share and what I don't share. Again, your children can also feel your energy. So, you don't have to say anything. They can feel things too. And I know that. And I've been very aware of that too. And I'm not perfect, and I won't claim to be perfect about it, but being aware is the first step towards that and improving it. But a lot of that is what I really feel kicked my fight or flight mode into gear. When it came to love and joy, and we would sing songs and cut up and be silly, and it was a safe space for me. I felt very safe and comfortable in my home. I knew I always had a safe space. Today I went and visited my mom, and a bunch of my family just randomly showed up today, and we don't usually do that, but we all just, maybe we needed to be in this space together to feel safe, because I know I'm safe there, and I know that it's a refuge for me in any stage of my life and for anybody in my life. But I really feel like that kick started my fight or flight, and I never really addressed it. And like, even as simple as where I chose to go to college was a response for fight or flight. Like, I was running away from my socioeconomic status in the moment. And I actually really feel like I went to the right place. I love my experience. I love my school with all my heart. And it was a dream. It was a goal. And I made it happen. But when I was going through those processes, now that I have words, I mean, my God, I was fucking 17, not even 18 yet. But when I was going through those things to prepare to attend that school and to even go there, what was even my intention around it? Was it like, it was just, again, none of it was addressed. So there was just constantly in this fight or flight mode. Then when I attended that school, again, in fight or flight mode and feeling worthy, like I would walk around saying, damn, how did I even get here? Like, did they like fuck up and pick me? You know, like I didn't even feel worthy being there. And like, that particular school has a lot of money. So again, inauthenticity and status. They were wearing designer outfits and designer items that were not happening to me at that moment, you know, and I was paying for my own schooling and, or like my needs in schooling, if that makes sense. You know, like they're running around, and it's when I started learning labels for the first time. You know, like I didn't even fucking know what a hunter boots were. Simply shit Southern, I don't even fucking know, you know, bullshit like that. You know what I'm talking about. And then like Monogram in your fucking book bag. Okay, you want to talk like crazy Southern wealthy school? Yeah, that's where I, you know, rolling at. Again, so like as I think and talk about it, you can, these patterns just kept following me because I wasn't actually addressing them. And I was being inauthentic with myself from day one of my exit strategy, from day fucking one. And, you know, that's just one great example. And then my first semester, my dad died, you know, and I've talked about that in an episode. Again, running. Then I tried to leave the school and go to a different school, running. I'm glad I didn't switch, you know, my gut. I literally changed last minute, so I'm grateful I listened to a gut there. But, like, honestly, even my marriage to my husband, I was running. And, you know, I ran as fast as I could into my marriage. And that has burnt me, or not burnt me. It's definitely shown its ugly head. And I've had to address that in my marriage, because you can't run from things like that, right? You know, those cycles will show back up. But I ran into it. The intention wasn't there in the beginning, but I've addressed where I'm at in my marriage. And I have, like, this is where I want to be now because of that. But the healing had to happen with this particular situation. So whoever's listening to this, please don't go tell Blake I'm trying to divorce him, because I'm not. So this isn't it, I promise. But again, like, these are just all the different things in my life that have continued to show up because I never addressed them, and the body stored and stored and stored and stored, and I wasn't truly authentically being myself. I was constantly in that fight or flight mode and in the other, and I have always been in that fucking mode. Like, move here, move there, go here, do this, do that. Like, whoa, you know, and I don't know what it's like to just fucking live. I really don't. And you're right. Like, it's when I think I'm calm and at peace, I'm not. I am still trying to find something to make it feel chaotic. And I think, like, for a lot of people, it could be staying in chaotic jobs, or making yourself super accessible with your job, or even like putting your kids in a bunch of sports and things like that. You know, no dig on those folks, but are you authentically putting your children in the sports? Is it for you or for them? And, you know, people say, well, I'm so tired and I just want to be home with my family, but then they continue to add and add and add. Are you in that fight or flight mode? Are you running from something? Like, what are you doing? You know, are you trying to keep yourself in those modes? Like, are you masking? Are you hiding? And so all that to say, yes, like it didn't even need to be specifically as a child, can start, and then it just continues to snowball until you like, I don't know if my body knows what it's like to just rest.
Yeah, I don't think most people do.
Yeah,
Myra.
No,
because of the things you just said, right? A lot of deflection, a lot of, you know, what you should do, what's expected of you, and then you get comfortable with it, and you get less comfortable with being with you, just being. You know, most people aren't. And It's interesting. I have a theory as I've been studying about the nervous system a little bit deeper and understanding the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. There's currently, and maybe it's just me, but I get fed so many ads around cortisol levels and all the drugs now that they want, or programs. There's a zillion. I
Yeah.
mean, all on my feed, right?
Yeah.
But think about that. It's your stress hormone. So if you don't necessarily have to take a drug, is what I'm saying. If you start to get yourself into the parasympathetic, all of those levels naturally drop, right? They naturally drop. So they're again using something to make money,
mask it.
right? To mask it, to mask the goddamn issue,
Yeah.
you know? And hopefully at some point, you know, that's why I want to do this podcast, and I want to be bold and say things that people don't want to hear, is at some point we have to start to shift and not allow that, right? We don't want to continue to buy into it, or it will continue to happen, right? If we continue to feed the beast will continue to show up.
Yeah.
So just think about that, like, and really start to work on what does that calm space look like? And it starts with paying attention to your body. You know, and I talked about a few things that you can start to pay attention to that are really simple. Wow, good episode today. Anyway, I'll say until next time, keep your vibrations way high.
And stay sassy.